If you're experiencing any of these 4 brake pedal issues, here's how to find and fix each one. I fixed hundreds of brake system issues. These 4 pedal symptoms always point to the same common problem. I'll list the problems, causes, and how to fix each one. So there are 4 types of brake pedal issues you could experience in your car. We have hard brake pedal, low brake pedal, spongy brake pedal, and finally a vibrating brake pedal. We'll start with the first one, the hard brake pedal. In this scenario, the pedal is hard because we are losing brake assistance. There's 3 components responsible for brake assist: the brake booster, the vacuum pump, and the hoses attached. The brake booster is the component that uses vacuum or hydraulic pressure to amplify the force of the brake pedal, making it easier for you to apply the brakes. So the vacuum pump is a device that creates vacuum pressure for systems that need it, such as the brake booster. It's found in vehicles with turbocharged or diesel engines, which don't naturally produce enough vacuum for these systems. So if you have a big enough engine, then this component will not be found in your car. So if any of these 2 components fail, then you will have a hard brake pedal issue. So the fix is to replace whichever one is faulty. The last component is going to be the hose connecting the brake booster to the intake manifold. Inspect this hose. It could be damaged or detached from the intake manifold. This will cause you to lose vacuum pressure and therefore lose brake assistance. Hard brake pedal issue is the least common complaint. Next up, the low brake pedal. Low brake pedal is when you have to press the pedal all the way down for the car to finally stop. A few things can cause a low brake pedal. Here they are: low brake fluid, seized guide pins, or air in the braking system. Low brake fluid caused by a leak will also be accompanied by a brake light. So leaks can come from the master cylinder, the brake lines, the brake hose, the calipers, the wheel cylinder. The most common leak for brake fluid is going to be rusty brake lines, especially if you live in the salt belt. Next up, we have seized guide pins. So this is common, especially if you get a low brake pedal problem all of a sudden. Your guide pins should move freely. Multiple seized guide pins across all 4 of your wheels will result in a loss of braking power. To fix this issue, you have to unseize the guide pins, clean the guide pins with a Scotch-Brite and an impact wrench. Here's an example of how I do it. It's the fastest way to clean guide pins. So clean the inside of the guide pin holes. This is the tool I like to use to clean the inside of the hole. It's a wire brush with a hex shank that goes on your impact driver, and you could also use brake cleaner while you're using the wire brush. So the wire brush is really handy because this tool fits perfectly inside the guide pin holes. So all the tools that I will mention in this video will be in the description below, where you could purchase them on Amazon. These will help you fix the issues listed in this video. So a low brake pedal will feel like having air in the braking system, but if you know that you haven't opened up the system to replace a caliper or bleed the system, then seized guide pins is likely the cause. Next up, we have air in the braking system. If you have air in your braking system, then this will cause you to have a low brake pedal and will seriously reduce your braking power. So air can be introduced in your braking system if you have recently replaced a component like a caliper, a brake line, a brake hose, or an ABS control unit. Air can also be introduced over time without replacing a component or opening up the brake system in any way. How does that happen? It's because of the brake fluid. So brake fluid absorbs moisture over time. If you're in an emergency braking situation, you have to slam on the brakes really hard to stop the car. The heat generated during the emergency braking will cause the water molecules inside the brake fluid to turn into vapor, which then becomes gas bubbles. So to fix this issue, you'll need to bleed your brakes and get rid of all the air bubbles. Air bubbles can even get inside the ABS control unit. So this requires an ABS unit bleed with a scanner. So if you bleed your brake systems from all air bubbles and you went around all 4 of your calipers and got rid of all air bubbles, but you still get a low brake pedal issue, then most likely you still have air bubbles inside the ABS control unit, and that's where you have to bleed it with a scanner. All right, the next brake pedal issue is going to be the spongy brake pedal. This one is very similar to the low brake pedal. Depending on different car makes and models, the reasons I will list can be interchanged between low and spongy brake pedals. It really just depends on the car and how different brake systems react to these issues. A spongy brake pedal is when you have reduced braking power or no braking power at all. The pedal feels like a spring, like a force countering the force of your foot. So here are the possible causes for a spongy brake pedal: failed master cylinder, seized caliper, seized wheel cylinder, or seized drum brakes hardware. For the master cylinder, if the internal springs inside fail, then you will get a spongy brake pedal and no braking power at all. This is one of their scariest issues because you get no brake pedal response at all. Although it's an uncommon component to fail, it could still happen. Next up is the seized caliper. You can get a seized caliper while it's in the engaged position, and that will cause you to have premature brake wear, overheating, and one of your wheels to get really hot. You could also get a seized caliper in the retracted position, and that's the one that will cause you to have a spongy brake pedal feel. The piston will not move due to the square cut piston seal being seized. It will act like a force against your foot, and that's why when you press your brake pedal, you're not getting the full power that your car usually generates. So one seized caliper in the retracted position is enough to have reduced braking power, and you will notice that. So seized calipers can be replaced or rebuilt, but replacing it for a new one is the safer option. And finally, we have the seized wheel cylinder or seized drum brake hardware. So this is going to be common for cars that have been sitting a while, and also for cars that have rear drums. So the thing about drum brakes is that they're closed in and they don't get any outside air to cool them off. So all the heat, the brake dust, and the rust will accumulate inside. Eventually, if you don't go in there and maintain them by greasing the springs or greasing the backing plate where the shoes make contact, then they can seize. So they will act like a seized caliper where pressing the brake pedal will result in no braking power since all the drum brake hardware has a hard time moving. Finally, the last brake pedal issue you can experience is a vibrating brake pedal when braking. So 90% of the time when I get a complaint like that from a customer, it's going to be caused by warped rotors, especially the front ones. Rotors go through a lot of heat cycles, and when they reach 4, 5, or even 6 years old, they start to warp. So to confirm this, you can use a tool called a dial indicator to check out the out of roundness of the rotor. If you see the needle moving a lot, then you have warped rotors. The measurement is also called axial or radial runout. Alright, this tool will also be listed in the video description where you guys could get it on Amazon. It's also really handy if you want to check the out of roundness of drive shafts, axle, and anything that turns basically. You could check it with this tool and this will level up your diagnostic skills instead of just replacing parts. So the solution is going to be to replace your rotors, but also go ahead and replace your brake pads as well. You don't want to be putting new rotors on old brake pads because that could result in the same issue in the future. Now, if your rotors end up being good when checking with the dial indicator, the other component that you could test is going to be the wheel hub. This is uncommon, but they could still be out of round. So check the wheel hub and this will avoid replacing the rotors for nothing. And there you have it, all 4 types of brake pedal issue you could experience on your car, the causes and how to fix them. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any comments or questions, leave them in the comments below. Make sure you like this video and share, it helps me out a lot. I'll see you guys in the next one and take care.